Hey, if you've ever listened to our show and thought to yourself, I think I want to make a podcast, but I don't know where to start, start with Anchor. Anchor is a platform that has all the tools you need to record and edit your podcast, right from your phone or computer. Using Anchor allows you to distribute your show to platforms such as Spotify, Apple, Google, and so many others. The best part is that it's totally free. So if you want to get started, you can download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm.
Welcome!
Hey, welcome.
How are you today, Alex?
I am so good. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful because we're on the Bandwagon Fan podcast. Woo!
Air horn.
What?
I said air horn.
Air horn. I am Katé.
And I am a person called Alex.
You are a wonderful person named Alex.
Oh.
Alex and I are both learning how to practice speaking slower because I think we're like world-class mumblers, and learning to talk slow is something we need to work on.
It is hard to enunciate and talk at this pace. But I am
Wouldn't it be
working on it.
easier to enunciate when you talk slower?
But I'm used to talking at this speed, blah, 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 the mumble the whole time.
So then you don't enunciate. It's okay. He's not very smart.
I'm just saying it's hard. I'm not used to it.
Oh, yeah.
Because I speed and talk everything. Let's just go straight into he's not very smart.
No.
See, I did it at that pace right there.
Well, anyways, okay. So we actually can't talk too slow because I think it'll make us sleepy. And I say that because this episode is a special episode. We are recording at 11:50 p.m. or in 10 minutes at midnight in honor of Taylor Swift's new album, Midnights.
We figured midnight at midnight.
Oh yeah.
Sounds like a plan.
We are loyal, dedicated, true fans, lifelong Swifties.
Oh yeah, you can say that with a straight face.
No.
I wish we could show Kate's face right now because we could see all of the lies.
Lots of lies coming through there. Funny enough, our other host, Natalia, couldn't make it to be on this episode. Shout out to Nat. But it's funny because she is actually a lifelong, I want to say Swiftie, but now I'm worried that she'll be mad that I said that because I don't know if Swiftie is how she identifies. But she is I'd say, lifelong Taylor Swift fan.
You know what? She's not on the podcast today, so she can't defend herself. So I'm just going to call it, and I'm going to say it. I'm going to call her a Swiftie.
Okay. I'll report back later to see if Alex gets any flack for that.
We'll find out.
I know Natalia is very particular about her labels, but I can say, like, confidently that she is a Taylor Swift fan. So, in regards to Alex and I, what would you say? How would you identify Alex in the Taylor Swift world?
I didn't really enjoy her music like in high school and college, but when Lover came out, that kind of started getting me into her music.
Oh, really? That's kind of recent, maybe?
Recent-ish, yeah. Only a couple tracks, but what really stood out to me were Folklore and kind of Evermore. So I guess like her 2020 albums were the ones that put me a little more on board with like, hey, like I'll give her some credit. Like she can write a song when she wants to, and like I think she is a talented songwriter. It just has never really fit my wheelhouse. But yeah, so I guess like the COVID era of Taylor Swift is what got me mostly in.
That's funny that you say that because I think I'm a little bit the opposite. I still to this day love her first album that had Teardrops in My Guitar, and She has the one song that's like called like "Your Dirty Old Pickup Truck, You Never Let Me Drive." I'm not singing it, but some I think it's called "Pickup Truck," and then that also has the our song. That's like, oh my god, that when that album comes on and those songs where she's like really country and has her twang voice, like it just takes me back to being like, I don't even know, like 15, maybe 14, 13, possibly that young. I just have memories of like being at like one of my friend's house, and we would like literally put that album in a CD player and just sit on the floor and just like sing along and be like, "Oh my god, this is so good." Um
That was a big album for most people. I remember seeing tons and tons of people covering that album at my high school's local variety show.
yeah. Well, I mean, at the time like she was like exactly what our generation at the time when we were teenagers. Like Alex is 29, I'm 28. So yeah, like I don't know, 15 years ago. Oh my god. Yeah, when I would have been like 13, like Taylor Swift was like the exactly like the filler like thing that we needed. Someone who made pop music,
Well, maybe the thing that you needed. I don't.
maybe not you, but
I was a Taylor Swift hater around this time.
so I was, yeah, what I was gonna say is like she obviously wasn't for everyone because I eventually kind of grew out of her. Um but at the time I remember reading an article once about how it was like in a world where like so many female pop stars are like Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, Katy Perry types, where it's like all their songs are about getting wasted and like doing things they regret and sex and dressing really like provocative, which is like totally fine by the way. Like nowadays, like people dress however they want and it's great. But I feel like back in the like early 2000s and 2010s, it was still very like, oh my god, like so racy of them. But then Taylor Swift was kind of always this like wholesome option for like pop music for girls. Um, but I don't know, for some reason, like I think it was the fact that she started to become more pop and less country. It always felt to me a little bit of like it always felt a little fake to me.
I
Like,
think the progression was interesting because wouldn't that have been like around the era when like Trouble came out?
uh, I don't know.
Red.
See, this is the thing. We really, honestly, we really need to tell you our Taylor Swift
We're
historian.
going off of our opinions. I from what I recall, I feel like the album Red is when she really broke into pop,
Pop.
and then what 19
1989 is a really poppy
yeah
album.
1989 was like
I think
so overplayed in my college.
that was something, yeah, that was hard for me to enjoy, to keep enjoying her, was that it felt like this identity crisis of like, you want to kind of be country, but you're trying to be pop. Like, which one is it? And then when she did switch over to pop, it was kind of like, where did the twang go? Like, was it ever real? Was this fake? Like, was this just like an industry like creation? I don't know. That was I'm trying to bring us to where we are today in that I have to admit I've definitely been a bit of a Taylor Swift hater critic for a long time because I think that I think like you were saying earlier, like you didn't really enjoy much of her music, even though she's a great songwriter. It wasn't she wasn't a great songwriter in your book to like what speaks to you.
Yeah, it's nothing I would have went home and played on repeat, and I think I've played every record of hers, at least the past few. I mean, I remember trying to go through all of Reputation when it came out, and it just wasn't for me.
Mm,
But I think Folklore was the first one where I actually played it all the way through multiple times.
hmm,
So that
interesting.
was a big change.
That's the thing. Yeah, I feel like a lot of Taylor Swift albums I actually haven't probably either
Hmm.
listened to or listened to in full. But funny enough, actually, I really do like the album 1989. And I think it's because it's so ultra pop, like so bubblegum pop, that I actually really like it because every song flows and sounds poppy, that it's like cohesive to me.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I have to admit, a lot of times I am pretty like skeptical of her, and I think it's just, it's definitely, I know, like a personal thing for me. Like, I don't know her, but it's easy to like kind of dislike her because I can. and there's things that seem like easily dislikable about her for me. But today, though, when we talk about Midnight's, I think we're both gonna like. I think we agreed, like, like we went into this listening of the album with an open mind.
Yeah, I feel like she's done essentially every era and genre that's her thing. It's like, so it's I kind of figured. Well, I have some opinions on it, but I kind of figured she was going to at least do something a little different than what she's done before on this
Mm.
album. But on one of the previous podcast episodes, I took a guess on the sounds that she was going to do, and I was totally wrong. So
Oh,
I will have to
really?
own up to that.
What I think I kind of remember that. What were
So
your prediction of Midnight's?
based on the cover art, I thought she was gonna have a lot of influence to
Oh,
like
emo, right?
late '90s, early 2000s emo. Nothing.
Okay.
I didn't get that at all when I
Hey,
played
it could
this.
be her next album. Maybe she has untapped emo that's gonna come out one day.
One of these days, maybe.
I'm actually sad now too because I remember now that you said that, and that actually could have been pretty freaking cool to hear a emo Taylor Swift album. Because honestly, she hasn't done that one yet. Which, speaking of, so just a few little specs regarding this album. This is her 10th studio album, which is it is impressive. Like, honestly, I know I said I'm like a Taylor Swift hater, but there are things that like I can't deny. And one of those things is that like she has like impressive success.
It takes a lot to write 10 records
Yeah. Well, that's the
and
thing.
have
It's
all of them
like,
chart.
yeah. And I do think that one of the biggest reasons is that she has a loyal fan base. So they're going to play those songs because they want her to get make those records, like hit those records. Um,
Hit the chart.
hit the
The chart
charts. That's the
sales.
word. Yeah. I was like trying to think of the right words. Um, But I mean, yes, there is, like you said, like she is a good songwriter. I think it's just, to me, it's not. Oh, hey, it just hit midnight. Happy midnight to you.
Celebration. Woo!
Midnight.
All right, so we're gonna jump off and play the album at midnight again. We
Yeah,
do this every midnight every day.
we'll be back. Yeah, we'll be back on the next midnight for you guys.
And we're
And we're
back.
back. And we're back. Um, so yeah, this album just came out a few days ago, October 21st of this year, 2022. And it was announced like a few months ago, I'd say. She announced it on the MTV Music Awards.
Wait, there's still MTV Music Video
They
Awards.
are still doing those
They're still
things.
kicking.
They're still giving out the little spaceman guy
People still make
awards.
music videos too.
I know. It's funny. I feel like I have not watched a music video in years, but they're still happening. And I'm probably just old. So, but yeah, she announced it. And I remember hearing it on the news because, of course, like anytime Taylor Swift announces anything, her fandom, like, erupts and freaks out as they should. And I remember hearing the quote because I think I saw it on like online or something, but she was like, "Meet me at midnight," and like, and then like when it was blowing up on social media, I saw like that she had said that this album was going to be was written and inspired by quote 13 sleepless nights throughout her life. Which honestly, when I actually heard that, I did think that sounded really cool because that is a very like artistic concept, I would say. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like sleepless nights. Like we've all had them, but it is, I think I watched one of her documentaries once, and I think she did say that she's like a big journal writer, which is also really impressive because I think it takes a lot of discipline to write a consistent journal. And I think people who write journals because of that have this little physical way to like recall things. And so I kind of regret now because I'm like, I know I've had like sleepless nights, and it would have been really interesting if I had like written about them to remember later, like, why was I staying up late, or like, did I wake up from like an interesting dream or a nightmare or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, um,
Well, when I saw 13 Sleepless Nights, I was like, wow, that's actually like that's a pretty short amount of sleepless nights. I'm like, you've had some pretty good
It's
rest
the
over all these
money. She
years.
just sleeps on a bed of money every night.
Yeah, I was like, what's that like?
It's so comfy. You basically only ever have 13 sleepless nights.
I'm like, what about like 13,000 sleepless nights? That
Is
would
that
be,
in the life of Alex
yeah, it's
Melgoza?
in the life of Alex Melgoza.
We
Not
gotta
as
get you.
much the past couple of years though.
Oh, does that mean life's been good?
Yeah, life's been pretty dang good. But yeah, I think it's an interesting concept, and I feel like it still kind of ties into like the music videos for folklore at least were very like fairy tale esque, like her playing piano and like going through the piano and entering magical worlds, which is like I'm showcasing like um fantasy um in an outside sense, and like here it's like I'm showcasing that in like a journalistic sense. So it's like
Hmm.
I haven't watched the music videos here, but from the way you've described it, sounds like a similar theme.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't watched the music videos either, but that is something like I think I'll touch on later with like my opinions, but definitely like this album feels like somebody who writes a lot. Like,
Hmm.
I mean, I know, yes, we've said she's a songwriter. She writes a lot. She usually gets, I think she takes most credit when it comes to her songs for writing, with maybe like a little assistance on some songs here and there. But like I definitely get like I wish there was like another word, like someone like you know how there's like people who are like cinephile or like some like a anglophile or something
Hmm.
like that. Like I don't know what you call someone who's like a writophile,
Not
like
that.
a person who loves to write. Like you can just I don't know. I get that vibe from this album. But one more like crazy thing about this album, which literally for Alex and I came out about 4 days ago. This album has already been charted as having the most single day streams for an album in Spotify history.
That's including all of the chart and single stream hits that Drake and The Weeknd have already made. And Post Malone, she's topping all of
She's
those.
topping everyone. It's insane. And then that in the United States, it logged the largest vinyl sales week of the 21st
You
century.
know what's interesting about that though?
Huh.
I was at Target yesterday and they have 4 variants of the vinyl and it said collect them all. So it's like, and they were
Ugh,
$30 a piece. So I'm like, you got people out here
I hate
buying all
that.
4 color variants. So I I know that still ties that. So it's like even though it's like the most sales and it still is impressive, but it's like a lot of it is probably one person just buying the same record 4 times.
Yeah, I mean, see, that's the thing, like, about the Taylor Swift army is like, I, I don't know, when like there's like these armies of fans, like Harry Styles' army and previously One Direction's army, and how other like some of those K-pop bands like Blackpink and stuff. It's like like it's cool. You know what? Like I'm so glad you have this army of fans. Like you've worked hard to get that. I get that, but I just it sometimes irks me because that's the thing. It's like Taylor Swift could put out the worst album, something that's like legitimately terrible, and she will still chart. She will still sell out her shows. She'll still sell tons of albums and make like set records and like I guess that just kind of bothers me sometimes that there's like this blind, not blind, but it's like this loyalty that it's like someone could be terrible and people are going to love it, or that somebody like her marketing team can suggest, let's make 4 versions of the same vinyl so that you can literally just make more money. And because they know that these people are just so obsessed and loyal, they will just give Taylor Swift endless praise and literally all their money.
Ties into people are obsessed with collecting and they'll do whatever they can to have that. I haven't personally like looked at all of them, so it's like I'm hoping maybe they at least have
Mm,
like um I would assume, I don't think this is true, but it's like it would be cool if they had like a different track tied into each of them.
yeah.
But to our knowledge, there's only one other variant release of this record.
Yeah. Also, every time you say variant, it's like giving me COVID trauma. I'm like, variant.
Yeah,
Yeah. Version? Can we call it
we'll
version?
say version.
Okay. Um, I just, yeah, my last thing on this Taylor Swift army is that
Is this album will give you COVID?
this album will give you COVID. Don't buy it. Just listen to it on Spotify. You're already paying for that monthly anyways. Um, I think that what it is about her army that and other fan armies honestly is the idolization. Like that's something that I've come to realize is that like I have bands I like and bands that I love and bands that I can't wait to see in concert, all this stuff. But it's like I think it when it gets to this level of like idolization and like basically like worshiping somebody, that's I think what then bothers me.
Hmm.
Because I also know then that yeah, these like artists can like take advantage of that.
Do you feel like she's taking advantage of her fans here?
Um, no, I don't think that like this album specifically. I think for a long time she's basically been like the queen of the pop music industry, like literally like the long reigning queen. And at this point, I think she can literally do anything, and people will love her. I mean, even a few months ago, there was that report about people who use their jets the most and basically create the most climate like people who like pollute the most because of their private jets, and that Taylor Swift was like number one by a mile out of so many other celebrities. And it's like yeah, she got some flack for like a week,
That died out very
and
quickly,
then it
though.
died out and she just went right back to being just like America's sweetheart and most beloved person. So I think that's what kind of bothers me is that like it's again it's the idolization, it's the worshiping, and the fact that these people can do bad things or just not okay things or whatever they want really, and they'll never have a consequence and their life will always be great and people will love them. And I don't know, that's again that's my own personal beef. But let's go into the album, because I actually really did try to listen with an open mind and really just listen and let myself just like what I liked, and if I didn't like, I didn't like, and I kept it very like surface level and simple.
Same here. I tried to play the record multiple times, mostly due to I knew the first time I was going to kind of play it from. I don't love all of Taylor Swift's music, but I tried to play it in the background the second time, so I was like thinking less about um, who I was listening to and just trying to like go in with a different perspective, and I feel like that was really helpful.
It's actually a good way of listening to music, I think,
Yeah.
sometimes, because I've noticed sometimes if I put background music on, the way for me to figure out what songs I like the most are the ones that then catch my attention.
Mhm.
But the ones that just play and I don't even realize that they had played make me then realize, oh, that wasn't very memorable. But if I'm like doing another task and then I catch myself tapping my foot or humming along or even being like, well, this is really good, like caught my attention, like that's a good way to like gauge what songs you ended up liking.
Yeah. So in regards to that, like what were your thoughts on this record?
Yeah, I, so overall, okay, so first off, Alex and I both listened to the 3 a.m. edition. She came out on Spotify with two editions. There's the actual just album Midnights, and then there was another that says Midnights 3 a.m. edition. And I think the difference was a handful of songs.
Yeah, it brings it up to almost an hour, over an hour. It's it's a good amount of extra
Seven,
tracks.
so there's 7 extra tracks on a 3 a.m.
Basically
edition.
a whole extra album.
I know. Honestly, when I played the album when I went on a long walk, and when I first put it on, I was like, oh my god, this is so much. But then I just let myself listen and not pay attention to like where I was at in the queue. Um, but overall, I I would say about a third of the songs from the, let's say, like the 3 a.m. edition, which in total that's 20 songs. I felt like a third of the songs from that version of the album, honestly, to me, were kind of just filler, not memorable, throwaway songs. Some of them were just like, it just sounded like a generic Taylor Swift song. Like, it just sounded like, okay, I'm listening to Taylor Swift sing, and the lyrics aren't really impacting me or catching my attention. The beat, the tune, the rhythm, the instruments, whatever, like the actual song part, like it's just kind of like eh. But I will say there was actually a few songs that I found myself listening to and like, thinking about like life or love or being surprised by what other thoughts came to mind and like feeling like, wow, like I really like this. And I wrote like I wrote a top four songs. I had Snow on the Beach, which actually features Lana Del Rey.
Barely features
Barely,
Lana Del Rey.
barely, barely, barely. Yeah,
She's
listen to
in
the
the
song.
background, just kind of
She's just kind of
humming.
chilling there, humming. But I still really enjoyed the song. I really also liked Karma, Sweet Nothing, and then the last song on the 3 a.m. edition. This is my midnight yawn. The last song I really liked was called Dear Reader. And overall, I would say like to me, this album felt like very confessional. Like there was times where like she'd literally have lyrics where she'd be like, I feel the need to say this, or like I want to confess this, or kind of like almost felt like she's like sharing thoughts and feelings that she's kept inside. But again, and like to me in typical Taylor Swift fashion, like, it's not like she's actually explicitly revealing anything, like it's all very like vague or metaphorical or like inside stuff that like only maybe like she or like maybe close friends of hers would get. But I think the reason why I really like the song Dear Reader is because it felt as if like, if someone had written a diary and at the beginning, like knowing that maybe people in the future might read it, if they wrote like a little like dear reader, like this is my diary, blah 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 blah. And so at the end of the album, like hearing that song Dear Reader felt very much like she's writing a letter to fans of like, here are some of my like innermost
Mhm.
like thoughts and feelings, and I just put them down in a whole album for you. Like take it as you will, enjoy it as you will, but like this is it. So um trying to think. And then yeah, I mean, I think this song Lavender Haze was fun. That was the very first song, and like it's a good pop opening. And honestly, I really thought that after that song, the rest of the album was gonna be as like high as that, like as like that poppy of a
Kind of
high.
had like an 80s. I don't know. Everything reminds me of an 80s record now, but that's kind of the vibe I got from that
I
song.
Lavender Haze very much felt like her album 1989 to me, but then the rest of the album kind of like ebbed and flowed to me between like chill pop to like poppy folk, but then still just like general pop, but nothing like too crazy, too high energy. But yeah, what did you think about it? What are some of
Um,
your favorite songs?
yeah. So I mean, playing this record, the things I thought it was going to sound like were something kind of emo or folk, and I didn't get either of those, which was surprising to me, but also like I can respect her for not wanting to repeat this. Well, I say not wanting to repeat the same record over and over, but I feel like a lot of her records do feel kind of repeated to me.
Mm,
Um, this album actually felt to me like I was listening to a Lord record, and I
interesting.
didn't know until afterwards that Jack Antonoff produced this of Fun, who also did Lord's last album, and I can see a lot of similarities. Like I just feel like, and I think he did some of the recent Lana Del Rey records, so it's just like
Mm.
all kind of
I think he's done a few albums with Taylor Swift. Like I know they've been connected before.
yeah. I know. I think Aaron Dresser did one of them, so I don't know. I didn't know that he was tied in with her. Um, but I love Jack Antonoff as a producer. But after I'd seen that, I was like, oh, that makes sense. Like that, of course, this is a Jack Antonoff record, and I just
Mm.
didn't seem to know that.
Mm.
But yeah, like you asked me like my favorite tracks off of it. I honestly only had three songs that stuck out, and I think all the other ones I probably would never listen to again. Snow on the Beach, which is the
Mm.
one that you liked, and then Question. It was like question dot 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 something like that, and then would have, could have, should have.
Oh, that one was. I like that one too,
Yeah,
actually.
I think. And was that one from one of the 3 a.m.
Yeah, I think that's from the
tracks?
3 a.m. version.
Yeah, which I actually thought the 3 a.m. marketing was kind of smart because it is kind of like, hey, this is for all the people who still can't go back to bed, and it's like it's kind of, I thought it was kind of like a fun way to like loop in your deluxe tracks instead of just saying Taylor Swift deluxe edition. It was like
Mm,
Taylor Swift 3 a.m., but like we're gonna release it
yeah.
at 3 a.m. And if she does anything like that again, it'll be lame, but for this one time, like I think it's really cool. And I uh I thought it was unique, but I wasn't expecting the sounds of this record to be the way it was,
Hmm. Is that because you didn't get your emo songs?
or the folk sounds, but
Okay.
I feel like I enjoyed it as like a background album.
Mm,
It was, I guess what I'm saying is it was okay to me. There was a couple songs that really stood out, but most of it was, to me, just like I feel like it didn't hit quite as strong as Folklore and Nevermore for me.
mm. It's funny, as you just said that, the first words that came to my mind were easy listening.
Hmm.
And I know that that's kind of like a genre of rock, I'd say, like easy listening, like the kind of like 70s, 80s rock bands that are kind of like like easy listening. Like this album to me felt like Taylor Swift, a little grown up, still a little poppy, but like easy listening pop.
And her lyrics are a little more mature. That was like another thing that
Yeah.
I had noticed was she's owning up to things now, which I wasn't used to hearing. I was like, oh, like you're admitting that sometimes things that happen in your life are like your fault. And I'm like, I thought that was kind of cool. I'm like, she feels, she feels more grown up than a decade ago.
Yeah, honestly, that was another thought that crossed my mind while listening to this. Was I was like, oh, I feel like I can actually relate to this for once because it it felt like the person singing was similar, was like close to my age, and I think she is a few years older than us, but for a long time, a lot of her music has just felt still catered to like a teenager, which I think is another reason why I have had a hard time connecting with it. Um,
Those teenagers are growing up, though. That's what we forget.
I know, but like, and then also the fact too that like she was making music also when I was a teenager, but like I said earlier, like that was like 10, 15 years ago. So it was kind of nice to like finally listen to like a pop album that felt to me age appropriate, like almost as if this was catered to her like late 20s, maybe even early 30s fans, and not so much to maybe like a teen, like a 15-year-old could listen to this who's a big fan of hers and they would enjoy it.
Hmm.
But I don't think a 15-year-old is going to have gone through as much life and love and loss and just all the emotions that I can tell like are in these songs.
This album was definitely, yeah, this album was definitely catered to her fans who have been around since the beginning,
Yeah.
and the stragglers like me who come in every now and then. Apparently,
Yeah. I mean, okay, so final question. Are you on the bandwagon? Would you, did this album make you feel like you like Taylor Swift more? Are you going to play it again? Yes or no?
I'm not on the bandwagon. I will probably, I added a few tracks to a playlist, so like they might come on shuffle every now and then, but
Oh,
I couldn't see myself like just sitting down and like playing this
mm,
album multiple times. It could change, but right now I am not on the bandwagon with this album.
okay. For
What about you?
yeah, for me, it's like hard because I'm trying to get better at like if I like something, like just admit it. Don't like try to like play coy or whatever. Like I actually think I did like this album. I still agree that like again, about a third of the songs are kind of filler, not memorable. I probably won't ever play those ones again. Like I actually think I could see myself playing this album again and listening to it. But yeah, when I get to a song that I don't really care about, I'll probably just skip it because there's literally like 20 songs to listen to that even if I like 10 of them, like that's half the album and a full album in itself of listening time. Um, I think that honestly, like I'm not gonna ever. I don't think I'll ever change and become like a Swiftie. I don't think I'll ever just like fall in love with her music and be obsessed with it. But like truly, like I think I did enjoy this album, and if I was to recommend to somebody who'd never heard any Taylor Swift in their whole life, which sounds impossible, I would tell them to listen to this album.
I can
So
respect that.
yeah,
Difference of opinion, but was still a fun album to check out. And it's not a bad album. It's just not an album I would play a bunch. And
yeah.
um,
Well, looks like for now, Alex and I will just be waiting until she makes her emo album.
yeah, come on, drop that emo record.
Yeah, Taylor, do something.
Hint, hint.
Do something you've never done before.
Rock and roll,
Rock
T
and
Swift.
roll, T Swifty. Well, that's all we have for you guys. But let us know what you think. Let us know if you are a recovering Taylor Swift hater like me, or if you're an occasional fan like Alex, or a mega fan like Natalia, who's not here, dearly missed. Um, just let us know what you think. Let us know also what you think of our podcast. Like it, rate it, review it, subscribe, comment, tell us your thoughts.
Share it, do it all.
Share it, love it, live it, and have a good night.
The Bandwagon Fan Podcast is hosted by Josh Jimenez, Alex Margosa, and me, AJ Soy. Our show is produced by Katé Smith and edited by your boy, AJ. Our social media is managed by Natalia Kokulia, and our theme song, Lush Wave,